Hello and welcome back to my craft room. It's chilly in here, but not that chilly. I'm just wearing this to show you what we're about to start making. So this is what I've decided to call either a snoob or a snarf. I can't decide. It's a really simple crocheted project, very easy to do, suitable for beginners, doesn't even need a pattern. I'm just going to show you the basic steps. The great thing about it is you can make it as long or as short or as wide or as narrow as you like. So it doesn't, you could have one that just fits neatly around your neck, like you can do this. You can, if you're out and about and like me, you don't like getting cold ears, you can just pull it up. You can pull it right up over your head, almost like a balaclava. It's very versatile. So this is me when I'm outside. Oh, I reminded myself of, was it Kenny on South Park years ago? Anyway, so I have managed to lose the first bit of footage for this. So I've come back in just to introduce it now. It's a very beginner-friendly project. But I think, you know, if you're an experienced crocheter and you've got scraps to use up, you can use anything you've got, really. It's very adaptable. And as I say, if you're experienced, you could probably knock one of these out, depending on the size, in 2 or 3 evenings easily. If you're a beginner, it will take you longer, but it's a really good practice. It's all done in, let me quickly show you, go to the desk. It's just a tube and it's all done in a crochet rib. So you've got the same stretch as you'd get in a knitted rib, but you do it differently. You do it sideways with crochet. The rib isn't so apparent on camera because of the variegation. There we are. If I hold it like that, you can see. So it makes it nice and comfortable. Okay, I'm going to pass you back to my former self now. Oh. So there we go. That was our bit of time travel for today. Now we're coming back to the past. Where I'm just about to start this project. As I say, very user-friendly. You can adapt it to whatever wool you happen to have to use up. What I'm going to be using is some wool which was sent to me by a company based in mainland China called Newcraftday. They have very kindly given me a 10% discount code which I can share with my viewers. So you'll find that in the description box, along with a link to their website and to the product I'm actually using. We'll have a look at that in a minute. So this is going to be very much geared at beginners. If you're an experienced crocheter, you could probably just have a quick look at the idea and skip right to the end and make it up. It really is that straightforward. But it's nice to, I think, you know, even when you're just beginning, it's nice to be able to produce something that's actually useful, that you'll actually enjoy wearing. So let's have a look at what I'm going to be using. So this is the wool that Newcraftday sent me. So as with all of these companies based in China, they all seem to use these same grey bags for posting. Just occasionally you'll get something, a little box within the bag, but so I would say if it's something like this, it's not going to get damaged by being crushed. It's not a problem. Otherwise I don't know what they charge for postage or anything. There seem to, whenever you look at the website, there are always lots of offers going up and stuff. There's free postage over a certain amount. There is that 10% discount code which will help out a bit, won't it? So but I don't know what postage is. They don't tell me all that. They just ask me, they give me a budget, ask me what I'd like to try, and this time I said, ooh, I'll have some of that lovely rainbow colour wool. So let's take this out of the noisy plastic. I also got them to send me this roll of thank you labels, which when I ever get my act together and put anything in the Etsy shop again, I will find very useful. I thought these are really cute, just little thank you labels to seal packages with. There we go, that's better. Yeah, they seem really nice quality. Right, what I'm going to do is I'll actually quickly show you it so you can get a quick peek at their website while we're at it. There we go. So this is the Newcraftday website. you can see they've got lots of different currencies up here, so presumably they send to all these places, but as I say, I can't speak to how much it costs to get things posted to all those different countries. But here's the wool that I asked for, £2.84, and it just says milk cotton. It doesn't say anything. Colour soft, baby milk cotton yarn, suitable scarf hat, blah blah blah. Doesn't say anything recognisable. All their spinning process worsted. Now that's an American term. I'm not quite sure what it means. I assumed it meant double knitting, but looking at this, I don't think it's the same thing, is it? But I'll show you it. I'll show you it in a minute. So there we go. That's yeah. That's okay. £2.84. Quite happy with that. It seems nice quality though. I would say don't be fooled by the fact that it says milk cotton, because it's 100% soft acrylic. Now, did it say that on the website? I did say that when I'm doing these reviews they will be honest. So one thing I find a bit disturbing is that the label is completely blanked out there. There's one picture here that says 50 grams cotton yarn. Well, I'm not disappointed because I could see by the photograph that wasn't cotton yarn. And I know a lot of things get lost in translation when you're looking at sites where, it's not the first language and all of that. But it does say up there, cotton thread texture, soft and smooth. Well, it's not that. So, as I say, I'm going to be honest in these. When I'm doing these reviews, I'm not going to do them if I can't be honest. But having said that, I'm delighted with it. To be honest, it is what I expected. It's perhaps a little finer than I expected because I stupidly thought worsted was double knitting, and it's not. It's not. This feels more like. Let me get a bit of. So that's a typical kind of double knitting yarn, and this is a cheapy yarn that I buy in a supermarket. I think it's about £2.20 for this ball acrylic yarn. So price wise, this isn't outrageously cheap, is it? But it's not over expensive either. I love that it's variegated. I don't know how much the kind of equivalent of this would cost, because I end up using this stuff. So one of the lovely things about using a variegated yarn like this is that you, especially when you haven't got to keep changing colour, you get all the fun of the colour changing without having to actually join in new pieces of yarn, which keeps it nice and simple. So yes, it is 100% soft acrylic. The other problem I have with the label is that normally, let's get another ball again. When you look at the label on a ball of wool, so especially if you're a beginner, you might not know this. This is also 100% acrylic. You can see you'll get, washing instructions and things, which we've got there. It tells you what size crochet hook or knitting needles to use, and it tells you how many stitches and how many rows will make a 10 centimetre or 4 inch square, so you can get your tension right, all that kind of thing. And we haven't got that here. And it doesn't actually say on there what weight it is. Excuse the filthiness of my hands. It's down to another project I've been working on today. I'm fitting a lot in at the moment. So yeah, it is what it is, and I'm quite happy with it. And if I had paid for it, I'd still be happy with it. So, but it isn't cotton for sure. Now I'm going to have to guess a little bit what size crochet hook to use here. If it was double knitting, they would usually tell you. There we go. So you can see for this one. It's a thicker wool. They're telling you to use 6mm hooks. And there's a tension square again. 14 stitches and 21 rows should make a 10 by 10 centimetre square. So I'm going to have to wing it a bit with this, and I think normally they'd say a 4mm hook. I tend to use a slightly smaller hook if anything, because my tension is loose. And another good reason for starting with something like a scarf is that size isn't important here. It's not got to fit you like a cardigan would, say, or even gloves or whatever. It's quite forgiving. So I think I'm going to start with a 350 hook. So if you take your crochet hook, you get the, with these, the sizes is there. These ones, it's printed on the handle there. I think I have 3.5 or even 3 because it is quite a fine. Got a lot of 4mm hooks. Look at all these. I'm going to start with 3.5 and see how that goes, but I've got my 3 handy as well. And I would say if you want to try this project, you use whatever you've got. If you've got something around, you use it. I think you can adapt it quite easily, even if you're a beginner. But I would say if you're going to go out and buy a cheap ball of wool specially, go and get some of that. This kind of stuff like I was just showing here. A lot of supermarkets do it. You'll find it in charity shops. It's just gone over like, it's something like $2.20 a ball this size now. You'll probably only need a couple of these. By the time I've done the project properly, I will be able to tell you how much of this I've used. I would just say buy a couple of balls of that and a 4mm hook, and you're away. To make this snood, I want it to be ribbed, and this is a way of doing a rib effect in crochet. I'm going to be kind of forming this rib sideways, if you like. So here is basically I'm going to be making a tube like this. I want my rib to be running that way to give me the stretch to pull it over my head. But for crochet, I have to work, the rib kind of works sideways. So I'm looking at it in this direction. So my first row needs to be as long as I want my little, what am I going to call it? Tube. As long as I want my tube to be. And you can vary that depending on what you want. I like them to be quite roomy so that there's room for them to kind of ruche up, or I can fold them over, or it's long enough to pull up over my head. So I'm going to start off with a good long row, and I shall measure it as I go, and I should just wing it. So it's really easy. We just need a foundation row as long as we want our tube to be. And there are 2 ways of doing this. So whenever you're doing whenever you're starting your crochet, you've got to make this sort of slip knot to start up with. So I just make a loop like that and pull a little loop through and pull it like that, not too tight. I'm going to put a white sheet or something underneath here. It might help the camera. So there we are. I've made my little slip knot and I've just pulled it up like that. Now, I'm going to show you the simplest way first, and I'm just going to do a little length now to show you. So the simplest way is to make a chain, a whole length of chain first, the length that you want your piece to be. So to make a chain, we just put the yarn around the hook and pull a loop through. And that's one chain. That first loop that we made, the little slip knot that we made, doesn't count as a stitch. Yarn around the hook, pull it through. That's my second chain, and you can see 2 chain stitches there. And I will just keep doing that until my piece is as long as I want it to be. Now try, and this is easier said than done when you're a beginner. How beautiful is that all going to be? Look, love the variegation already. Easier said than done when you're a beginner. It's easy to get a bit too tight, make your tension all a bit tight when you're starting off. So make a conscious effort to make this first row quite loose, if anything, because the tendency always is for the first row to come up a little bit tight, and the finished, it just spoils the finished effect. So try and keep it loose. Sometimes I will even use a larger size. So this is the 3.5mm hook. I'll even use this size for the first row and then go to a smaller hook for the subsequent rows, just so this first row doesn't get too tight. Because if I use a larger hook, it'll make the stitches looser, if that makes sense. I'm just going to do a few here just randomly. I'm not even counting at the moment. I absolutely love this yarn. Now it's not cotton, as I said, it's not cotton, it is most definitely acrylic, but it feels lovely to use. It's got a nice smooth, the way it's twisted. Let's see, can you see how nice and It's twisted quite closely. It's nice and smooth. If I show you, I don't know if it will do it on this one, but certainly with some of these cheaper ones, they're, oops, sorry. It's kind of more loosely twisted, and it splits more easily when you're using it. So I like it for that. Yep, it's nice to use. Feels nice in my hand. Okay, so just to that, this is enough just to show you this first foundation chain. So we're going to be working this whole thing in. This is UK terms, double crochet, which you'll see written in patterns as DC. If you're American, you'll know this as single crochet, which is written SC. To do the first row of double crochet, I'm going to miss this first stitch in the row, this one, because that's going to become like my turning chain. It's going to become in effect the first stitch in this row, the first double crochet in this row, and this first row is always the most difficult. So now I'm going to go into the second chain from the hook, so not this one, this one. I'm going to make sure I'll turn it slightly so I can see what I'm doing, and make sure I go under both arms. It's like two little arms to that chain. I'm going under both. Show you it again in a mo. Yarn around the hook, pull it through. Yarn around the hook again, pull it through both loops on the hook, and that's my first double crochet, or single crochet if you're American. So again, I'm going into this now. I want to be careful. I don't just want to go into this part of the chain. I want to just turn it slightly so I can see what I'm doing and go under both these little arms of the chain. Yarn around the hook, pull it through, yarn around the hook again, pull it through both loops on the hook. And you go all the way to the end doing that. So this first chain, especially because you need quite a long length for this project, this is a little bit, does feel a little bit awkward. I do find I need to keep just turning so I can see what I'm doing. Absolutely loving this rainbow of colours. It's getting a little bit awkward. It's always also awkward holding it at arm's length under the camera. You sometimes have to just fiddle a little bit to make sure you're picking up both of those arms. And it gets a bit more tricky as you get towards the end. And I've just got this one last stitch to go into. And that's the most awkward one of all. Just want to make sure I get both arms of the stitch. There we go. So that is my first row of double crochet in English, single crochet in American. I love this. And then it's time to turn. Before I turn, I'm just going to show you another way of doing this. This is quite new to me, but I just think it's a brilliant idea. Now, I have been watching a few very useful tutorials on YouTube about giving you tips about this kind of thing. I've got a crochet playlist. So if you go on there, you can find not just my own videos, but other people's videos that I've found particularly useful. So this is a chainless foundation row. So you can do it whether you're starting with a row of double crochet or a row of treble crochet. So you start off with a little slip knot thing again, like that. And with this, instead of doing a whole foundation chain and then doing the first row of stitches, the double crochet we're going to do into it, you do them both at the same time. You're creating the chain and the first row of double crochet at the same time. And it makes a nicer, neater finishing row without that tendency for it to get a little bit tight. And I really want to get used to doing it because I just think it's a nicer way of working. So, but I would advocate watching one of the tutorials that will probably show it better than I'm going to. Because I'm going to be doing double crochets, I'm going to start off with 2 chain. Just like I did before, just 2 chain. And then I'm going to go into the first chain that I made. So I'm skipping this one and I'm going into this one, and I'm again being careful to go under both arms of the stitch. Yarn around the hook and pulling it through. And now I'm making this chain. So here is the chain. And now I'm making the double. It's not too obvious yet, but what I've done there is make the first chain in the row and the first double crochet in the row at the same time. So now I'm going to go into this first chain that I've made here. I'm going into that one, putting the yarn through, yarn around the hook, make the next chain, yarn around the hook, pull it through both loops on the hook to complete my double crochet. So now I've got 2 chain there and 2 double crochet. So go into that one, pull it through, I'm just going to do a few now. Okay, so we're just going into the chain. So it's like that's the first part of our double crochet stitch. Now I'm making the chain, and now I'm finishing the double crochet stitch. That's how I'm thinking of it anyway. So I'm just going to work a few of these along so you can see what you've got is a line of chain stitches and the first row of double crochet made at the same time, and the base of it is just sort of looser and more elastic. It's just a nicer, neater finish, I think, and once I get into the habit of it, it will be easy. But I would say if you're a complete beginner, maybe do the classic foundation chain way first that I just showed you, because it is simpler. Just make sure you don't let it get too tight. Try using just one size up of needle. So this is a 3.5, maybe just use a size 4 for that first foundation chain. If you're using double knitting, you'd be needing to use a 4mm hook anyway. So for that first foundation chain, use a 4.5mm, just to help you not end up with a really tight first row. So I'm going to carry on and do a little bit more of this one, and then just show you my first couple of rows. There you go. So I think that's it. That's enough of a row to just show you where I'm going with this. So now I'm going to turn my work and beware when you're turning. One thing to bear in mind is can you see if I turn it that way and try and carry on, my yarn is going across my work. You don't want that. You turn it the other way, the yarn isn't going across your work. So it's just a little thing to bear in mind. Whichever way you decide to do it, just keep going with this initial foundation row until it's as long as you think you want your tube to be, bearing in mind you're going to pull the tube over your head. This is it top to bottom, so you want this long enough. I mean, for me, I want it to be about that long. I don't think it's crucial. You might want yours more generous, you might want a shorter one that's just going to be more of like a little scarf, like a little almost collar, but I want mine to be long enough to kind of pull up around my ears. But you could make it really long so it'll pull right up over your head, and then you can just roll it down. So it just depends on what you want to do. So I'm just going to keep going with this until it's about the length I want it to be. See you back here when I'm ready to turn and start my next row, because that's when we start turning it into rib. Well, I've finished my foundation row. It's measuring about 42 centimetres long, and I think that's enough for me to sort of pull up over my ears or just roll down. That's about right for me, but you can make it longer or shorter, whatever suits you. So whether you've done that row of chain to start with and then a second row of double crochet, or single if you're American, or whether you've done it all in one, like this chainless foundation row. This is where we're at, and we're ready to turn and start the next row. I'm going to turn my work like this so that I haven't got the yarn coming across it. Turn it in this direction. Because I'm going to be doing double crochet or single in American, I'm just going to give myself one chain to turn. Now normally when you do double crochet or any stitch really, you're going all the way through, like previously I've been saying you must go right through and under both arms of the little stitch in the previous row. In this case, because we want the rib effect, we're not doing that. We're just going to go into the back. So if you turn it slightly, then you can see that little row of V's along the top. You just go in the back of the V. Now I'm not going in this one here, I'm missing that one. I'm going in this stitch here, this sort of second from the hook, and I'm just going into the back of it. And then yarn around the hook, pull a loop through, yarn around the hook again, pull it through both loops on the hook. In England we call that a double because you're going through twice. In America that's a single crochet. So I'm going, this is the next stitch. Whoops, you can see the stitch I've gone into. This is the next one. I'm just going to go into the back of it there. Just that back one. I'm making it look awkward because I'm trying to show it to the camera. Pull a loop through, yarn around the hook, pull it through both loops on the hook. A couple of times more, just into the back of the next stitch. Pull a loop through, yarn around the hook, pull it through both loops on the hook. Oops, I missed it there. It's very awkward when you're doing it at these weird angles. Love the way this, I love that how colourful this yarn is. The colour changes so often, you're getting a constant change, so I just love it. Kind of makes it easier to see what you're doing as well. Normally we'd be going through both arms of the stitches, but because we're only going in the back one, we're leaving this front arm behind. We're not using this front arm at all, and that ends up kind of sticking up, and that's where the rib starts to be created. So I'm going to work along the rest of this row, just going into the back of every single stitch. I'll be back in a mo. It won't take me long. It won't take me long once I can get it under my nose instead of under the camera. Okay, just coming to the end of the row now, so I thought I'd show you this last bit. Just going into the last stitch there. Turned my work, and I'm just going to do one chain again to turn. So I'm not going in this stitch here, I'm going in the next one, and I'm just going into the back of it again. And if I just do a few of these now, you'll see how it's starting to make that rib shape. You can't see it so well with the variegated actually. And when you've done a whole lot of it, it has the same kind of, it has the same effect as ribbing, as knitted ribbing. It's just that it, you know, you can see it runs side to side. So what I'm doing now is this way round. If you look at my diagram there, I'm doing it this way round. And all I'm going to do now is keep on going until I've got a piece that's wide enough that when I roll it up into a tube, it's going to fit nice and comfortably over my head and be the sort of width that I want. I want it to be quite generously sized. So I won't do that on numbers of stitches because I think that's going to depend on what wool you're using, what your tension is like, what size hook you use. You know, I think it's better to go on measurement. So I will carry on now doing row after row after row exactly the same way. Nothing will change until I've got enough fabric to bring it together into my tube, and I won't even need to actually stitch it together. I will crochet it together at the end as well. The only thing I'll need a needle for is for my ends, one this end and one the other end. As regards this wool, very happy with it, and I would definitely have it again. It feels really nice to work with. As I said before, it's nice how it's kind of spun so that it doesn't split easily and stuff. It's really nice. But my only kind of regret with it is that it's not telling me whether it's double knitting or what. To me, that feels thin to be double knitting. but it feels too fat to be 4-ply. And maybe it is double knitting and it's just me. If you remember, it said on the website something about worsted. Well, I looked up worsted just now before I came back on, and apparently worsted is thicker than our double knitting. It's more like what we would call Aran. So this definitely isn't worsted. So I would say it's lovely quality. I love the colour, I love the way that the variegation, but I'd be wary of following a pattern where it's for a garment where you need it to fit a certain way. I think for things like hats and socks and things, blankets, perfect. I just, yeah, that's the only thing about it. And the fact that it says cotton and is actually the fact that it actually says milk cotton and then underneath quite clearly says 100% soft acrylic. And it certainly feels like it certainly is not cotton, but it's a nice feeling acrylic. So yeah, very happy with it. So this will be so quick to do. I will probably finish this evening and be back in the morning to show you how I roll it up, make my little tube and do a bit of modelling for you. My crochet project is taking a little bit longer than I thought. Here's a piece that I've done so far, and I've nearly used up one ball of wool. It seems to be working up quite nicely on a 3.5mm hook, and it's making me think, well, maybe it is a double knitting. I wouldn't want to swear to it though. So I just thought I'd come back now just to show you, so you can see I've got nice straight edges, and because I did that foundation, that chainless foundation, there's no kind of tightness along this beginning edge. It's nice and elastic. It's definitely worth, if you've not tried doing that before, that chainless foundation, it's definitely worth getting the hang of that. Definitely, just, you know, once you get used to it, it's just as easy. In fact, probably easier than doing a whole length of chain and then having to go back and do a double crochet into each of the chains. I just wanted to show you what I'm doing, so I'm coming just to the end now. Let's put this down a little bit. So I'm going into the back, and you can see that because I've been going into the back loop only of the stitch each time, you can see it's having this effect, this kind of ribbed effect. It doesn't show so well in the variegated, it's not so obvious, especially on camera. If I turn it that way, you can kind of see you get this ribbed effect, so you get this lovely stretch in it, which is going to be perfect for making my snoob. This is the kind of second to last stitch now. I'm going into the back of this one and doing my double crochet or single crochet in American. And then this is the bit I wanted to show you. So there's a little stitch that comes across here. It's not really the last stitch, it's this little loop that you see coming across here each time. That's what I'm going into. I'm doing my very last double crochet or single crochet in American of that row. I'm coming close to the point where I'll be needing to add in a new ball of wool. I think the second ball of wool might almost be enough to make my snoob, but I might go into the next ball as well. As I said before, I can't really give numbers of stitches. It depends on what wool you're using, on your tension, what hook you're using. So it's more a case of measurements, and again, even the measurements, it'll be down to you, what you find comfortable, how snugly you want yours to fit, how big your head is. I've got a big head for someone who's only 5'2". But I'll cover that as we come across it. I'm just going to whiz down the end, down to the end here, and then I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you when I'm ready to change into the new colour, so I've probably got a couple more rows. So I'm going to stop now and add the new length of wool in. Now, this is a way that I saw Tula doing it. Tula's channel, I've put a couple of Tula's videos in the crochet playlist that I'll link in the description box. She showed how to do this. She also has lots of other tips. One of her videos is the one that you'll see in there, which is something like 10 crochet hacks or something like that. Really useful little tips, or really useful stuff. So she did this way of joining, and I've never done this before, but I thought it looked really nifty. All you do is twist the two ends together like that, and then you carry on crocheting, but using the two strands where you were using one. I'm going to carry on, obviously still going into the back, and I'm going to pick up both of these strands now. So that's the new length of wool as well as the old one, and I'm just treating this as just one strand. So there'll be a little bit of thickness in these few stitches where they're overlapping, and it just has to be a little bit more careful. Okay, I've gone past the point where they were looped, where they were twisted together. So you can see, you know, the stitch is a little bit thicker there, but you're not really going to notice it. And if I didn't do it this way, what I'd end up doing is I'd have an end to weave in anyway. So all I've got there is that end, which I can now snip it off. I haven't got any ends to weave in afterwards. It's all done. I think this is fantastic. I don't know why I've never seen this before. So I'm going to carry on now, and so this took me a whole evening to do this, and I'm only about halfway. So I'm going to spend the next evening or so doing the rest of this ball, and then I'll have a look and see if I think that it's big enough. I think I'm going to have to go into another ball. The only way is to measure it against yourself for your own personal taste and comfort, and depending on what yarn you're using or whatever. If you want to be clever, you could definitely work in other stitches and things, but you know, let's keep it simple. I'm going to carry on and do that, and the next time you see me back, I will be ready to just join this together into a tube, and I will be crocheting it together. I won't be using a needle for that. I think I've got a large enough piece now to finish off this project. In the end, it's taken me 3 evenings and 2 and maybe a third of one of these balls. I am ready now to join these 2 edges together to form a tube. So I'm going to just pull off a generous end of wool, 1.5 meters, couple of meters, probably way more than I need. And where I've got this last stitch on my hook still, I'm going to just pull that end through that last loop on the hook, and then you'll see, there we go. So that was my last stitch on the hook. I've pulled the yarn through it, the end of the yarn through it, leaving that generous tail, and I'm just going to pull it like that, and it just closes up tight. So now I've got 2 choices. I could either get a tapestry needle and just match up all the stitches. So here's my 2 edges. Match up all the little V's. Can you see where you've got a V there, a V there, a V there, and just kind of whip stitch it all together. That would work. But because I'm too lazy to go and find a needle, I need to get rid of this end in a minute. Let's put that just inside out of the way for a minute so I don't confuse myself. What I'm going to do is slip stitch it instead. So this first little bit's a little bit awkward, so I've got that knot in the way. But I'm just going to put my hook under one arm of the stitch on this side and one arm of the stitch on that side. Bring that little V together, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Bring the yarn through like that. And then I'm going to go into the next pair of stitches. One on this side, one on this side. So you can see you've got this little row of V's going along, and I'm just making sure I go under both arms of the V each time. Just doing that slip stitch to pull them together. A stitch from this side and a stitch from that side, and I'm, instead of using a needle, a tapestry needle, I'm just pulling a loop of thread, a loop of yarn rather, through with the crochet hook. And as I say, this isn't really going to show because I will put this join at the back when I wear it anyway. So, and yeah, so that's a fairly tidy join, and it saves me going looking for a needle. So I'm going to work my way all the way along here, and then I'll come back at the end and show you how it looks. So that's my last one, and all I need to do, and you can see I did actually use nearly all of that wool, didn't I? I need this much to weave the end in, so yeah, probably it's better to err on the side of caution and have more than you think you need. So to give you a measurement in case you want to do it the same, 19, so it's about 19 inches that way, relaxed. It will stretch out quite a bit. So, so 19 inches that way, because obviously this is folded in half now. So that is 24, so about 48 centimetres. and in this direction 43 centimetres, so it's not far off square actually, is it? And 17 inches. What I'm going to do now is put it on and show you how it works. And I can't decide whether to call it a snoob, i.e. a tube crossed with a scarf, or a snarf. But if you've got any better ideas, do please feel free to let me know in the comments. Okay, let's put this on. I've still got the ends to weave in, but so you can see you can wear it almost like, that's a shame about that end. I should have probably gone off camera, woven that end in and come back and shown you. So yeah, you can, on a really cold day, so if I've got my hood on a really cold day, I could bring it up to here and I can bring it right down to here and keep myself nice and cosy. But if it gets a bit too warm, I can pull it down again. I could just have it around my neck if I want to, like that. And when so I quite like it just like that, and it's easy, you know, it's like a scarf without having the dangly ends. And in the days when we were going out and about during the lockdown, I would have it like this, and if I went into a shop I could just do this, and it doubled up as a face covering. Because I really feel if I get wind in my ears, if I get cold ears, I get really bad earache. It's painful for hours afterwards. So yeah, so something like this is a real boon. And I love these colours. Really love how that turned out. Thank you again to Newcraftday for sending the wool, and don't forget they did give me a 10% discount code, so I will put that in the description box as well, along with a link to their website. Oh yeah, okay, so let me know how you go on. If you have a go at this project, do share pictures. I think if you're an experienced crocheter, you could easily do this in 3 evenings. If you're a beginner, it'll take you longer, but it's a really good practice at keeping those edges straight and things. Do please shout if there's anything I haven't explained properly. I've tried not to over explain stuff because it really is so straightforward. It doesn't even require a pattern as such. So yeah, do please ask questions either in the comments here or find me in Discord or in the Facebook group. So that's it from me today. I don't want to take this off now because it's nice and cozy. Feels nice as well. I don't always like the feel of acrylic-y things against my skin, but this actually does feel nice. It is lovely and soft. I think maybe that's what they mean when they call it milk cotton. Is it a mistranslation of soft? I don't know, but it was lovely to use. I love the colour. And it feels really nice. To wear actually. Okay, that's all from me today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you again really soon. Stay warm, or if you're on the other side of the world, stay cool.